Frankie's still trying to get over her breakup with Jonah, Shay's trying to get scouted, and Saad is in need of a job. Hello, I'm Carrie, and welcome to Degrassi Corner, and in this video, we're talking about episode 402, Get Money, and there is a reason that is the title of this episode, because two of the plots in this episode actually revolve around money, and these two plots actually overlap a little bit. But first, Frankie, she is still not over her breakup with Jonah, and it's to the point where the administration at Degrassi, because of what happened to Maya, they are now sort of creeping on everyone's socials. And Miss Grell actually asks if she's okay because Frankie is posting some really sad updates on her socials. But Frankie insists that she is okay, that she's not sad to the point of doing something extreme, that she's just sort of what she says regular sad. So Lola says that basically you gotta fake it till you make it and act like you're living your life as happy as possible without Jonah. Show him that you are happy without him. So later, Frankie goes to some festival in the woods and she's all alone. Lola and Shay couldn't go with her, so she ends up sort of being befriended by Esme and Zig. And when Zig has to leave, Frankie's left all alone with Esme, who encourages her to actually go up and talk to Jonah. But as soon as Frankie's about to do that, Grace shows up, so Frankie gets upset. She yells at Jonah, and then we see her bashing Jonah's guitar up against a tree. And because this is Degrassi Next Class, if anyone does anything wild in public, it is posted online. So yes, the entire Hollingsworth family, including Frankie's mom, saw what Frankie did. Miss Hollingsworth tells Frankie that she has to give Jonah the money to get a new guitar. Frankie can't bring herself to just walk up to Jonah and give him the money, so Esme helps her come up with a plan. Basically, she just busts into the dot a little bit later. Jonah's sitting there minding his own business, and then Frankie just makes it rain money in Jonah's face in dramatic fashion and then walks out. Maybe it's just me, the fact that I'm a lot older now, old enough to actually be Frankie's dad. So it's like her behavior in this episode is just so childish. I could totally see 17-year-old me thinking it's really funny that Frankie walked into the dot and made it rain on Jonah in that way, but current me's like, what the hell are you doing? And I feel like that's kind of a big point with Frankie, the fact that she isn't really all that mature. And in a way, she's also afforded the privilege to behave that way. Because if you look at her friend group, you have her, you have Lola, and you have Shay. Shay's hyper-focused on trying to get scouted by a Division I school and get a full scholarship because she can't pay for that herself. And Lola spends her time basically running her dad's restaurant. And then you have Frankie here crying over a boy. She breaks Jonah's guitar and then it's like, woe is me, I've got to get a couple of $100 out of my account and pay him back. In season 3, Frankie logged into Jonah's face range and saw that he had called her immature. And there was also a scene in a later episode where Shay and Lola basically rail on Frankie, telling her all of the things that she does wrong when it comes to relationships. And I'm not trying to discount Frankie's feelings because her feelings of rejection after this breakup, they are absolutely valid. Girl, I've been there, I feel you. But Frankie just isn't mature enough to handle the aspects of a relationship, whether it's the breakup or even the relationship itself. And that's why Jonah didn't want to go public with his relationship with Grace so quickly, because he knew that Frankie wouldn't be mature enough to handle that. And also because he knew that Frankie would confirm in her own mind that he and Grace were having a secret romantic relationship behind her back while they were dating, which isn't the case. That did not happen. But he knew Frankie would think that. So Frankie, she has got a lot of growing up to do still. Now on to the next plot in Get Money. Shay, she is trying to train her butt off in order to get scouted so she can get a full scholarship into a D1 school. The problem is she's training as hard as she can and she's still not fast enough. And Armstrong says that some athletes do take supplements in order to give themselves an edge, but they're way too expensive. But lucky for Shay, Lola's Cantina is conveniently hiring. And Shay has an audition to bus tables, as well as Saad. He's also in need of a job, so they're both auditioning for the same job. In Shay's case, unfortunately, Lola gives the job to Saad, so she's out of luck in terms of getting the money that she needs for these supplements. So she actually ends up stealing money from Lola's Cantina. Then we get a little moment where she has a moral dilemma on her hands, and she ends up actually taking the money and putting it back, but she's caught by Lola anyway. And Lola's mad at her, mainly because Lola had blamed Saad for the theft and had actually fired Saad, and Lola still doesn't give Shay the job, but she does decide to lend Shay the money that she needs for those supplements. Now, this felt like one of those storylines where it's like, hey, we've got to get this plot in for this character, and we need to wrap it up in one episode because we're not really interested in dealing with it more than this for now. And it mainly felt that way because of the ending, because after all of that trouble that Shay went through, Lola just says, hey, I'll give you the money. There really isn't that much to say about this one. Sports is Shay's thing. That is going to be her thing for as long as she's on the show. And finally, the third plot in this episode belongs to Saad, whose sister Abra wants him to take a picture of her. However, we remember his camera was broken by Zig in episode 401. So Saad needs a job in order to get the money, and it just so happens that Lola's Cantina is hiring, and not only are they hiring, they're looking for someone to bus tables, and that's something that Saad used to do back home. So, of course, Saad gets the job, but then issues arise. Number one, he's been avoiding Zig and Tiny because, he punched Zig in the face in the previous episode. And then we see Zig and Tiny confront Saad outside of Lola's Cantina, and they basically tell Saad to stay away from Lola's Cantina and away from all of their friends. So Saad initially doesn't want to take the job because of what Zig and Tiny might do, but Lola's like, those two are idiots. Please, just take the job. You're the best person for it, and we need you. But then issue number two is the fact that money from the tip jar goes missing, and we know that Shay stole the money. However, Lola is under the impression that Saad is the one who stole it, and she actually fires him. So his final scene involves he's looking at his phone, he's looking at flights back home, and he sees this ad pop up, and when he clicks on it, it's kind of like this message board where people similar to him are talking about how they don't fit in at their new school. And we see him smile because it seems like he's finally found his place, so to speak, somewhere in the world. I think Saad's story is going to be really interesting in season 4, and a key point of this plot is something that you can apply in your life every day, but it's something that you have to do consciously, and it is the idea that life ultimately comes down to perspective. We meet Saad's younger sister, Abra, for the first time in this episode, and she actually goes to Degrassi as well. And she's loving her time at Degrassi. She's loving the fact that they moved there, and she's having a blast. But Saad, he's not really enjoying his time at Degrassi. And it's pretty easy to see why. He was friends with Maya for a while, and then all he knows is suddenly she didn't want to hang out anymore. He's got Zig and Tiny all up in his face, and he just got fired from his job for something that he didn't do. So he doesn't really have any friends, and he feels like he's misunderstood. And let's face it, human beings, we're not perfect, and for the most part, we are pretty crappy communicators, especially when it comes to what we are actually thinking. So this is a really relatable thing that Saad's going through, where he feels like no one in the world understands him. He doesn't feel like he relates to anyone, and he feels all alone. So that's why he looks like he's gravitating toward this online community of people who are in the same situation as him. And to be honest, that sounds a lot like us in the Degrassi community, those of us past, present, and future. So what are your thoughts on the second episode of Degrassi Next Class Season 4? Leave them in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to Degrassi Corner for Degrassi Next Class news, reviews, and more.